Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Yeah, I Said It. And with a heavy heart, I'm bringing you the show on Friday, January 31st, 2020. Today marks the first day that the Los Angeles Lakers have played a game since the unfortunate passing of Kobe Bryant last Sunday in Calabasas, California. And I want to echo what Jeff said on the show that we did earlier this week on Wednesday, and that's Jeff Hartman, the editor in chief, Mr. Grant Importante. If you feel a certain way and you feel emotional about the things that have happened, and you're a guy and you shed a tear, it's okay. It's okay, and it's okay to be impacted in an emotional way by someone that you never knew or never had a personal connection with, because you can resonate through the spirit with people and through their stories and what they represent. So clearly, Kobe Bryant, his path, his journey resonated with people around the world. I would be remiss if I didn't also say rest in peace to all of the other families that are being severely impacted by this tragedy. Also, um, it's just a tragedy. It's just a sad day. It's a sad thing, but we will go on, and things do go on. And, as a Laker fan, a longtime Laker fan, I've been a Laker fan since the Showtime Lakers. I know nothing else but Laker basketball. And, as a Laker fan, I want that 17th. And I hope that the Lakers rally around the spirit of the Mamba and Mamba mentality, Mamba and Lil Mamba Sita, and can bring the city and the fans of Laker Nation around the world that 17th one, so the Lakers can be tied with the Boston Celtics. But with that, I'm going to move forward and jump into the topic of the program this evening. But before I do that, I want to give a special shout out to Jeff Hartman. I want to appreciate the opportunity that he's provided for me on this platform. I want to give a big shout out to the Oracle, Dave Schofield. Also, the bad one. Who's bad? Brian Anthony Davis, hashtag Mr. 2 a.m., hashtag Mr. Bad Curtains. Also want to give a big shout out to Tony Defio. Before I jump into the program, let me clarify some of my nicknames for Mr. Third and Fifth. It is Mr. Gummy Richards, not Richard Gummies. And also, in regards to Antonio Brown, I do wish that his life, the path that he's on, gets righted, because he's a family man. And at the end of the day, a lot of us who listen to this show are hashtag girl dads. Me and Jeff are girl dads. Some of you aren't, but a lot of us are fathers, brothers, husbands, boyfriends, nephews. And Antonio Brown is one of those. He's slotted into one of those. And I hope that Mr. Third and Fifth, Mr. Gummy Richards, gets his life on the line and gets on that narrow path, because he has channeled his inner Mamba mentality, and we've seen the fruits of that on the football field for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm listening to the live chat, and I will say this. If you guys get a chance, listen to the show that Jeff and I did on Wednesday, The Standard's the Standard, on Steelers free agency, where I tell my infamous Tupac story. If you want to just hear the Tupac story, I urge you to listen to the show. But if you just want to hear the Tupac story, fast forward to about the 50-minute mark, 55-minute mark, somewhere there, or listen from 50 minutes on, and you'll hear my famous Tupac story. It's quite funny. But the title of this week's episode of Yeah, I Said It is simply, Yeah, I Said It. The Steelers championship window is barely open. And let me define what a window is, what a championship window is. And I think to be a team that has a realistic opportunity to win a championship, you need two things. You need a franchise quarterback, and I want to add some specificity to that. You need a franchise quarterback, and you need to be elite on one side of the ball. Now, let me dig into that a little bit more. When I say you need a franchise quarterback, here's the caveat, and I'm going to give you some information. Before I say it, let me reach into my article and get my information here, because I do want to let you guys know that we do a little bit of research for the program, and so let me grab my notes here, and I have them right here. So when I say a franchise quarterback, let me define what that means, and big up to what the hat. I can't even pronounce that. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the tag, but big up for the 499 contributions he wrote. Big ups, Lance. Got that Clarence Carter vibe stroking. Steelers got 3 years for another Super Bowl. And Clarence Carter, you be stroking. I mean, you got to be kind of old school to know who Clarence Carter is. But I might have the deep extra Barry vibes tonight, the Barry Whites going on, because, I do feel a little down in the dumps with the whole Kobe Bryant tragedy. It's kind of impacted me in a way, particularly from the girl dad perspective. But let me repeat it. The Steelers championship window is barely open. And let me go back to my point. The window is defined to be in a championship window and have a window. You need two components. You need a franchise quarterback, and you need to be elite, at least on one side of the ball. Now, when I say franchise quarterback, let me add a little specificity to that, and let me make it a little bit more granular. You need a quarterback, a franchise quarterback, that does not kill your cap. And when I say kill your cap, he does not account for more than probably around 12% of your cap. Because if you have a franchise quarterback that counts for more than 15% of your cap, it really severely impacts your ability to build your roster out, because you are giving so many resources and allocating so many resources to merely one position. Now, the importance of the quarterback position warrants that you probably dole out a majority of your assets to that position, but you have to be careful. So it takes a franchise quarterback that is cap friendly, and you need to be elite on one side of the ball. Now, let me dive into that. And I found an article. Let me read directly from the article about having a franchise quarterback that's cap friendly. 1 out of the last 12 winning Super Bowl quarterbacks was paid more than 12% of their salary cap. 8 out of the 48 starting quarterbacks in the Super Bowl or the championship games were paid more than 12% of the salary cap. 17 or 20 winning Super Bowl quarterbacks were in their 7th year or less when their team won the Super Bowl. So what that says is, to be in a championship window, you have to identify, meaning draft you're not going to acquire a franchise quarterback in free agency. You're going to have to acquire a franchise quarterback in the draft and win Super Bowls while that guy is on a rookie contract. That's why the Kansas City Chiefs are playing in the Super Bowl. And that's why in the first 3 years of Patrick Mahomes, I think it's 3 years, they've been to AFC Championship when he's first year as a starter and a Super Bowl. Why? Because he does not account for a large portion of their cap. And I would say he probably accounts for 5% or less. Somebody can look it up for me, put it in the live chat for Over the Cap from overthecap.com. Somebody look it up for me and look up Patrick Mahomes and give me his cap allocations. I'm going to argue that it's probably less than 5%. So when you have a franchise player, arguably the best quarterback, and it's not arguably, he's the best quarterback in the game at the most important position, and he's not killing your cap, Guess what you can do? You can build out your roster to support that player. That's why they got all that speed at wide receiver. So again, let me read more from this article. And the article reads, it would appear that the time to capitalize is early in the career of a quarterback before they earn a big payday. That would lead to new questions. As fans, we always want our team to keep the leader of the offense, but should teams pay as much as they do? Should teams pay as long as they do? It would be heartbreaking for your team to let your quarterback hit free agency and sign with another team. Just the thought of winning a championship in a different jersey is crushing, but maybe the concern is unfounded. Let me say that again. Maybe the concern is unfounded. Based on these stats, letting the veteran sign elsewhere and presuming his new team pays him more than 12% of the cap, their chances of winning are quite low. Conversely, your team's chance to win would go up as your team would have a new starter who would likely be well under that percentage. Sounds crazy, right? Letting the known commodity go for the unknown. I'm not even sure I believe I would want my team to do it. However, with teams always looking for an advantage that they can get, it may be worthy of consideration. With all that said, you might want to ask, just how much of the cap does Ben Roethlisberger account for? Ben Roethlisberger accounts, and I'm rounding up, 17% of the Steelers' cap. You got one player, old, coming off of a season-ending elbow injury. Now, we're not talking about his fingernail. We're not talking about his earlobes. We're not talking about his knee. We're talking about his elbow, a ligament in his arm. Now, don't rip me if an elbow is not a ligament. Don't rip me because I think it's a bone. Like, whatever. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Plus. A guy old coming off of an injury, 17% of your cap. And it's no mystery when Ben wasn't killing the cap that they won their championships. Because what did they have? They identified a franchise player at the quarterback position who was affordable, and they were elite on the defensive side of football. Thank you for everybody that chimed into the live chat. I guess 98671X gave me two different answers, but the point is the same. Patrick Mahomes counts for either 2.35% of their cap or 2.25% of their cap. Either way, he accounts for less than 3% of the Kansas City Chiefs cap. And so Kansas City is in no rush to extend him until they have to. He is not getting an early extension because they are going to continue building out this roster for as long as they can before they have to take the bullet and bite the bullet. And they are, and I think they should. But they are going to do everything they can from a player and a roster maneuvering and a player acquisition standpoint to put the best talent around him while he is dirt cheap. He's not getting an extension anytime soon. He's going to play that whole deal. They're going to give him that 5th-year option year, and that's how they're going to do it. And they're going to give him a long-term contract at the end of that 5th year, because what is he? And we talked about it, and we talked about what is the window and how is the window defined. You have to have a cap-friendly quarterback, and you have to be elite on one side of the ball. Now, this article was written a couple of years ago, and at the time, interestingly enough, the guys that they identified as, sorry, I'm flipping the pages, but the guys that they identified as potential players who fit that model of an affordable franchise quarterback were Carson Wentz and Patrick Mahomes. Now, Carson Wentz obviously got hurt, but Carson Wentz had a fantastic year. I'm not sure if he won the MVP that year. Correct me if I'm wrong in the live chat. Whether he won it or not, he was outstanding that year. And of course, we saw what happened in the playoffs. He got hurt, and they were led by a backup quarterback to a Super Bowl. But with that being said, their roster was fantastic top to bottom. And one of the ways they were able to build that roster out is because they identified their franchise quarterback, and he was cap friendly. And so at that point, they given some odds, and it was like Philadelphia 8-1. They identified some teams, because this article is a little bit old. They identified some teams, but that's the nugget that I want to give you. And so when we're talking about the Steeler window, I think they check one of those boxes. I think they are elite on the defensive side of football. However, I don't know if they don't check the box on the quarterback side. You've got an old, hurt guy that accounts for 17% of your cap, which leaves the Steelers cap strapped. It puts them in a position where it's going to be very interesting if they can bring back Finney, or they can bring back Filer, or Hilton, or Bud Dupree. They're in a position where, they signed up. I mean, I was going to say in a position, do you want to continue to do this, that, whatever? They signed on for this, and they feel comfortable. But if you look at the numbers that I gave you, let me give you these numbers again. 1 out of the last 12 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks was paid more than 12% of the salary cap. One, that guy was Peyton Manning, Denver Broncos, when they beat Cam Newton. 8 out of 48 quarterbacks in the championship games were paid more than 12% of the salary cap. 17 of the 20 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks were in their 7th year or less. The anomaly, of course, is Tom Brady. But the magic that they found in that team up north was Brady wasn't killing their cap for years. The couple of years that they didn't win it were the years when he was above that 12% mark. Bottom line, as much as I despise winning records attributed to quarterbacks, and the reason I despise it is it's a game. Quarterback is the most valuable position on the football field, but it's also the most dependent. It is dependent on 20 sets of arms and 20 sets of legs. And offensive line has to play well, skilled players, running backs. So much has to go right for an offense to have success that if you have that franchise quarterback, you have to give that guy weapons, and you've got to be balanced on both sides of the ball to win. It is a team sport. It's the ultimate team sport. And if you spend too much on a quarterback, you can't build your roster out, and you just get beat in other areas, which offsets the dominance of that franchise quarterback that you have found. That's why it is no surprise that the Steelers won their championships when Ben was young. So we talked about, the championship window being open. Now, I think the nuance comes in is to what degree is it open? Because the Steelers are over-investing in an older guy, it's barely open. Now, if you're looking at me on YouTube, it's like cracked. It's open like when you don't want to open your window because you got the air conditioner on, and the window is open like wee bit, like just a crack, a sliver. There's a little bit of daylight there because the defense, I think, is elite. And if they bring back the necessary pieces, I think the defense stays elite. But it's going to be tough. It is really going to be tough. And if Ben accounted for about 12%, and somebody, if they could go over the cap, and do the math and give me the number of what 12% of Ben against the cap would be, what their cap situation, how it would look differently, and maybe whoever does the Saturday show, I don't know who's up for the Saturday show. It could be Jeff. If Jeff, or if you're bad, if you're up for the Saturday show, do a little math for me. Do an adjustment. Give me what the Steelers cap number would be if Ben Roethlisberger accounted for 12% of their cap. That's a question that I want one of you guys to tackle on the show this week. And if you got it in the live chat, hit me with that. But, they're in a precarious place. They don't have a lot of resources. They have they're overpaying an older guy, and they don't have the resources to build out that roster on the offensive side of the football to really help him. So when I say, is the Steelers championship window open? Yes, barely open. Barely open. I mean, I don't know how much it's like barely cracked. Like I can feel just not a lot of wind, just not a breeze. I mean, I don't know how open it is. Maybe it's. Let's just say this: Kansas City's window, because they identified the best quarterback in the National Football League, and he's that cheap. Their window is wide open. Wide open. It is opened all the way up where your mama is hitting you upside your head because you letting out all the air. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Stop letting the air out. You didn't heard that. You didn't heard your grandmama come in the house say, boy, stop letting the air out. Air too expensive. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Stop letting the air out. Now to Mark Tobin, he wrote, KC is about to make Lance's point if they win the chip. They will definitely pay Mahomes a crazy deal, and all they need to do is spend money to get a top five defense, and they can win multiple. To Mark's point, they not paying Mahomes until they got to, because they're going to try to get multiple championships out of him until they need to pay him. And so if you're bad after you've gotten multiple championships out of the franchise guy that you found, your fan base doesn't care. If the Steelers won another championship in the next couple of, what would I care? They'd have 7. They could be bad for another 7. Riddle me this. For a city that's been to 2 Super Bowls in 50 years, if they win one, you know how much goodwill that is? Come on, man. Look, Andy Reid could ride off in the sunset if they win a Super Bowl. There would be no pressure for them to win, but I'm going to tell you, they not signing Mahomes to a big deal until it's late, because they going to be all in because the window is wide open. They're elite on the offensive side of the ball with a franchise quarterback that's cap friendly. Now, in terms of what side of the ball, would I prefer you be awesome on or elite on? It's offense. And I could be sacrilegious by saying that. I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm from the 15212, 15233. I'm from Manchester. I'm a North Side dude, just like the Rooneys. In fact, I know where the Rooney house used to be, over by CCAC. I used to run through the Mexican War streets, West Park, North Avenue, Western. Come on, man. I'm from North Side. I believe in the running game and defense, but it didn't flip. It is easier to play consistent offense the way the rules are set up than to play consistent defense. It is too hard to play consistent defense. That's not to say you sacrifice defense, but if there's a side of the ball I think you need to be elite on, it's the offensive side of football. Ring people up, get after the quarterback, and win championships. Average 30 plus, be middle of the road on defense, and win some championships, and roll teams up. Roll teams up. There it is. So to Jesse George, why don't you tease that out a little bit more for me, Jesse? You said 22 million a year is 12%, Lance, or close enough. How about if you go to 22%, go to overthecap.com and look at the Steelers cap situation. Tell me, what would the Steelers cap number be if he was at 12%? I'd say it'd probably be around 4.5. They'd have 4.5 million in cap space, somewhere around that. I mean, it doesn't change it drastically, but it doesn't put you at about 1.5 as to where they are now. So, with that being said, I think the Steelers' window is barely open. There is a sliver of light there, and that's primarily because they don't have a cap-friendly franchise quarterback. But if you have a franchise quarterback and you're elite on one side of the ball, you do have a window. You have a wide open window if you have an affordable franchise quarterback and you're dominant on one side of the ball. And it just so happens that Kansas City is dominant on the side of the ball that they have the franchise quarterback on. Oh man, I wish I could in the live chat. I wish I could cancel Mimi M, but I'm going to say this to Mimi M, and I'm going to channel my inner positivity today because of Kobe Bryant's passing and what this day means. Mimi, please, if you're not a Steeler fan, please exit the live chat. Unless, of course, we have some degenerate guys in the live chat that may take you up on your offer. But with that, I want to switch reels and talk about a point that Dave Schofield brought up on yesterday's show on Thursday, the Steelers Burning Question. I don't know the title of the show, but they did a great job. And he talked about what position the Steelers should draft with the second round draft pick. And so Jesse George said, yeah, Lance, we being the Steelers would have $5 million more in salary cap. So they'd have about $6.5 million, almost $7 million left in salary cap. That is a huge difference. $7 million is a huge difference. That means you can retain a couple of those guys that we talked about. When we talked about Vance, it makes it easier to sign Bud Dupree. Maybe you could even sign a Javon Hargrave or even offer him a deal. It's a big difference. So Mark Tobin stole my thunder a little bit, but I think Dave the Oracle Schofield hit it right on the head. I think the Steelers must draft offensive line with that second round draft pick, because I think the ripple effect of getting a quality offensive lineman resonates. I'll just say ripple effect. Why am I repeating myself? The ripple effect hits every area of that offense. I think they need an athletic guard to go with David DeCastro, a player that looks like a David DeCastro, that is athletic, that can get to the second level when it comes to inside zone, and a guy that they could run outside zone with. They need an athletic interior player. Because to me, I think BJ Finney is a bit overrated. I would rather have a highly touted second round draft pick that came into the league with a much higher pedigree than BJ Finney. You pair that guy with Pouncey, you have three outstanding athletic interior linemen. And I think with athletic interior linemen, it gives your offensive line a ton of versatility. Imagine if the Steelers could put a Quentin Nelson in that line with the David DeCastro. Also, it helps you run it more. You can pass protect better, and it helps support the overpaid franchise guy that's coming back off of an elbow injury. So I think that draft an offensive lineman, draft a guard, draft somebody in the interior, draft somebody in the interior. Or if you took a tackle, if you didn't want to reinvest in Filer. But I think offensive line is the way to go. I would not go running back. I would go tight end possibly. Tight end like Mark Tobin. Tight end would be possible. But I think, in a year in which they could lose Filer, they're going to lose Foster for sure. So I think you lose Foster, you could lose Finney, and you could lose Filer. You could lose 3/5 of your offensive line. not 3/5, 4/5. We use Foster, that's 1/5. 3/5. So 4/5. I'm gonna go 4/5 because I'm gonna throw Finney in there. So you could lose 3 quality offensive linemen, would then set you back. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Steelers are going to do. Now, before we get out of here, I want to transition to the Super Bowl. And I want you guys to hit me in the live chat, and I want you to hit me with your Super Bowl predictions. So big up to Jesse George. Thank you for agreeing with me. I agree 100%. Lance, I would go lineman or tight end, depending on who has the highest grade. I'm picking Bang Bang Niner Gang. I'm picking the 49ers. Now, I'm not picking the 49ers because my wife is a 49er fan. Well, hell, I ain't going to lie. That's why I'm picking the 49ers. And if I don't pick the 49ers, it's going to be bad for me in my house. So I'm picking the 49ers. But my mind says pick the 49ers as well, not just my heart and my logic. I'm going with the slightly better defense. Slightly better defense. Well, statistically, they are better. But I think in a game going up against the Chiefs, playing consistent defense against the Chiefs is damn near impossible. I think they can get a couple of stops, force a couple of punts, and that may be what you need. I think that the Chiefs are going to struggle to stop the Niners offense. Kyle Shanahan is a mastermind. Kyle Shanahan schemes offense better than Andy Reid. Barely better. But those two guys are the best schemers of offense. I think we're going to have an entertaining game. I like the Niners to win 35-31. As long as they don't get Mahomes. Where my homie? Ill and Al Scratch. If you're a hip-hop fan, you know who that's, where my homies. If they don't get Mahomes, meaning those plays where you do everything right and he scrambles right, throws back-footed, off-platform, missile bomb, straight, touchdown. As long as he doesn't Mahomie you, I think they win. I think it's going to be tough. I think they win, but I think it's really going to be tough if Mahomes get loose. I think the Chiefs are going to come out ultra aggressive. I would. Look, passing game is my strength. I wouldn't run the ball too much unless I couldn't hold up in pass pro. But I would go ultra aggressive and try to throw and just throw and throw and throw and throw it 40 times plus. I would say, look, if you can stop us, you can stop us. But we're going to ride or die with Patrick Mahomes in his passing game. We're not going to give you a break by running it too much. If you're the Niners, you got to make Kansas City stop the run. It's not that they're going to protect and hide Jimmy G, because I think Kyle Shanahan is coming out ultra aggressive as well. Because the myth of running and shortening the game is not correct. It does not happen. Teams are going to get possessions no matter what you do, unless you turn them over all the time. In the NFC Championship, if you look at the time of possession stats, Green Bay had the ball almost 3 minutes longer than San Francisco and had 10 possessions. So the bottom line is you got to play quality defense and you got to score a bunch of points. Score 35, hang on, win a Super Bowl, and tie the Pittsburgh Steelers and that team up north, the New England Patriots, with 6. So I think that we are going to have another member in the club, and I think the San Francisco 49ers will hoist the Lombardi Trophy and become a 6-time Super Bowl champion. But with that, we're going to conclude the show again. Hashtag Mamba, hashtag Mambacita. My condolences to all of the families that lost loved ones in that tragic crash in Calabasas on Sunday. Hashtag girl dad. Big up to all you girl dads out there. Big up to all the dads that are doing what Kobe was doing, is just, being involved in his daughter's life, taking his daughter to a sporting event. So if you're not involved with your child, get involved with your child. There's still time. Be a dad to your child. And be a girl dad, be a boy dad, and just be involved in your kid's life. That's the legacy to me, more than the basketball and everything. And that's where where this is all hurting me, is that Kobe Bryant Parrish just being a dad, man. And that really hurts. And that's why, this one stings. And it's just incredible to see the outpouring of love that we and all the world are giving to the Bryant family and to all the families that lost loved ones in that tragedy. But with that, we are going to conclude the program. And as always, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. R.I.P. Kobe.